This is Paul Levesque, but you know him better as Triple H. This is him in his current role as WWE's Chief Content Officer. Now let's rewind 20 years. This is Triple H lying in a coffin on top of a mannequin in an empty room in a funeral parlor. How did we get here, you may ask? Just how did WWE's Chief Content Officer find himself humping a mannequin in a Nashville, Tennessee funeral parlor? That is a great question that I am here to answer. This is the story behind the worst storyline in WWE history, the Katie Vick storyline. This dreadful, infamous storyline began on October 7th, 2002 after Triple H and Ric Flair jumped Hurricane Helms, who was Kane's tag team partner at the time. Following this vicious, heinous assault on Hurricane, Triple H then cut a weird promo on Kane as Kane stood in the middle of the ring. Triple H proclaimed Kane to be a murderer and began telling us and introducing the world to Katie Vick. Kane looked on from the middle of the ring with a puzzled look under his mask. At this very moment, the future Knoxville County, Tennessee mayor is probably wondering how he can get the hell out of his WWE contract. Now, according to Bruce Pritchard, when speaking about the storyline in an episode of his podcast Something to Wrestle, the original idea of Katie Vick was meant to introduce a young wrestler named Scott Vick, a performer in WWE's developmental territory. Vick was set to feud with Kane or Triple H, according to Bruce. Those are some big plans for a relatively unknown guy. Let's just say that. Scott is probably best remembered for his time as a member of Raven's flock in WCW under the name Sick Boy. Now, Scott Vick is legitimately his shoot real name. I don't think he had a sister named Katie Vick, though. Bruce didn't offer many details about what the original storyline was set to feature, so that part is largely up for our imagination. Who knows? Maybe he would have avenged Katie's death at the hands of Glenn Jacobs 10 years prior? But why would Scott wait 10 years to avenge his sister's death? And do it on live television in front of millions to see? Sadly, Scott never got to see the light of day on WWE TV, as he, quote, sucked during his tryout matches, according to Pritchard, and Vince McMahon decided to release him. Bruce then went to accredit himself, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, writers Brian Gewirtz and Michael Hayes as the creators of what actually transpired on WWE television throughout the 1 month storyline of Katie Vick. Apparently, a few shots of rum and a Corona or two had the creative forces behind WWE wanting to make necrophilia become a reality on their program. We went from a guy getting revenge for his sister to the chief content officer of WWE humping a mannequin on live TV, all because a few old white guys had a few rum shots and a Corona. I think there was something else involved, but this is only pure speculation, and to quote Rick James, cocaine is a hell of a drug. There had to be some sort of drugs or hallucinogens involved during this creative meeting to entice WWE to actually make a necrophilia segment. And that is exactly what millions upon millions of viewers were punished with for being a fan of professional wrestling. Now, keep in mind, this is October 2002. Steve Austin is gone after Vince McMahon told him he'd lose a predetermined match. The Rock is in Hollywood, and Hulk Hogan cashed some checks and went home for the winner. WWE is extremely lacking in the star power department in comparison to what they once had, and the ratings were suffering. Granted, the ratings WWE were getting in October 2002 were more than double what Raw draws nowadays. Vince McMahon attempted to solve this problem of dying interest in his brand by giving something that will get the people talking, damn it, pal. Vince probably said something like, my son-in-law will have intercourse with a coffin in a funeral home. That'll get us more ratings than when Austin was on top. Bruce likely joked and said, that's a good idea, boss, only for Vince to take it seriously. So the next week, on the October 14th, 2002 edition of Raw, Kane is back cutting a promo in the middle of the ring, giving his side of the story, only to be interrupted by Triple H. Triple H hinted at Kane committing a dastardly act on a lifeless Katie Vick after she died in a car accident, to which Kane denied. Boy, do I wish that the storyline would have ended here, but it did not. And the following week, on October 21st, 2002, the segment that for those of us who have seen it, wish we could all forget, and for those of you who haven't, I cannot in good faith recommend that you watch it. The segment that has become known as the Katie Vick segment aired after an intro promo featuring Triple H speaking to the live audience. He prepared us for what we were about to watch and warned us that the footage he possesses of what Kane did to a lifeless Katie Vick is not for the squeamish. The viewers had no idea what we were about to witness across this 5-minute long vignette, but I'd imagine that even in their wildest dreams, no one could have predicted what we got. What would follow next is one of the most tasteless, reprehensible, and despicable segments in the history of all of television, not just WWE. Allow me to paint a picture for you. There is a nice man being laid to rest in the very next room, beside an empty room in a Nashville, Tennessee funeral parlor. This nice man is presumably surrounded by loved ones, family, friends, and colleagues, and was probably a respectable member of his community. There are people grieving the loss of someone close to them, and in the very next room sits a camera crew, Bruce Pritchard, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, and Triple H, who is wearing a Kane mask and a Kane t-shirt. Triple H spoke about the behind the scenes of the making of this segment during a radio interview a number of years ago. He described that Vince McMahon was coaching him on exactly what to say and how to moan and groan while shooting this segment. So you have an old, affluent male screaming at his son-in-law to get into it and simulate like he's really having sex with a mannequin inside of a coffin while a man is being laid to rest next door. You cannot make this stuff up. Apparently Vince was screaming loudly and moaning and was yelling at the crew members. I could not imagine attending a funeral for a loved one of mine while being next door to the capturing of the Katie Vick segment. Bruce Pritchard, he noted that several crew members quit their jobs immediately following this production and were never seen nor heard from again. According to Bruce, Triple H and Bruce were trying to have fun and be silly with the segment so people wouldn't take it too seriously. However, Vince stepped in and insisted on his biggest star at the time giving a serious, Oscar-level performance in the funeral parlor. Vince had agreed to shoot a joke version and a serious version. They shot the serious version first, which is the one that aired on TV, and they never shot the joke version as Vince wanted it his way. Now on to what aired on live TV. Triple H in a Kane mask sneaks into a funeral home and begins conversing with Kane's deceased lover, who is a mannequin wearing a cheerleader's outfit. I literally cannot believe I'm saying this out loud. Triple H then begins fondling her chest before taking his clothes off and giving his love to a mannequin. Afterwards, he throws a nasty substance at the camera and proceeds to utter the words, quote, "I screwed your brains out." Another quotation from Triple H was, quote, "I love the smell of formaldehyde in the morning," after he sniffed her panties. I'd love to know exactly what his wife Stephanie McMahon thought about this segment. Imagine this, right? You're a man having dinner with your wife on a Wednesday night at a restaurant, as you do, and you say to her, "Honey, your father wants me to have sex with a mannequin inside a coffin on live TV." Man, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation. I cannot believe this segment aired on live television. Later that night, Kane wrestled against Triple H after the segment ended, and it was a tag team match, and he calmly waited on the apron for a tag from his partner. Kane then proceeded to kidnap Triple H and stuff him in a trunk and drive off with him to end the show. If you thought this would be the end of this dreadful storyline, think again. The following week, on the October 28, 2002 episode of Raw, Triple H brought Katie Vick into the ring after pulling her out of a casket, and then did probably the worst ventriloquist act in the history of ventriloquism. WWE doubled down on the segment from last week by having Triple H utter the words, quote, "If you were seriously offended, I seriously don't give a damn. If you didn't like it, you can kiss my ass. I will do what I want to do, when I want to do it." Thankfully, so we thought, Hurricane Helms interrupted the segment. Now, in hope of some normality, we were happy to see Hurricane. The ridiculousness just kept going, though, after Hurricane interrupted this monologue to show us what really happened when Triple H got kidnapped by Kane last week. We proceeded to see footage of someone with a Triple H face cutout edited in front of their face have a hand extracted from their rectal area. That's right, WWE brought back the old Mae Young hand bit. Whew, man. October 2002. What a banner month for WWE's creative, am I right? And then, if that wasn't enough, The doctor pulled Triple H's head out of his own ass. Thankfully, Kane and Triple H had their match at No Mercy, and this storyline was over and never talked about again. Vince actually thought that this angle would get people talking and get ratings back up. That is simply unbelievable. I just want to say this for the record. Just 16 months prior, WWE hosted the biggest WrestleMania of all time, WrestleMania X7 at the Houston Astrodome. Let that sink in for a moment. When Kane got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2021, Stephanie McMahon tweeted an apology to Kane about the storyline saying, quote, "Congratulations to one of the most unique characters and individuals I have ever known. A man with unparalleled intellect whose heart is as big as his body. Welcome to the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2021. You deserve it. Don't worry, we all know you had nothing to do with Katie Vick." That right there, my friends, is the Katie Vick story. I will talk to you all on the next edition of Wrestling Uncovered. Thank you in advance for watching. Can't do it without you guys. You guys mean everything to me. Thank you again.